Hi, I'm John DeArmond.
And I'm Edward.
And we're with the Coquille Valley Sword Group. And today we're talking about Haritsuke. Haritsuke is the next of the kata. It is pretty interesting because it utilizes a pinch grip similar to tsuitezuki that we call Haritsuke, or Haritsuke waza, Haritsuke technique. So let's get started. There are two characters that make up the name Haritsuke, Hari and Tsuke. Hari is similar to needle or spine. So, for instance, a hedgehog is a harinezumi, so a spiny rat. Tsuke, this specific tsuke, means to affix. So basically we are affixing the needle. This will make a lot of sense once you see the kata. It's another real straightforward one, but it takes a little bit of finesse to get used to. So without further ado, let's go ahead and go over the kata itself, and then we'll break down the individual parts and go from there. Let's take a look at the Haritsuke kata. I will be Uchidachi, the bad guy. Eddie here will be Shidachi, as usual. We'll demonstrate it once, and then we will break it down to its individual parts so it becomes clear. Good. So the kata begins the same way that ukinagashi does, right? Uchidachi is doing the same things as always, starting off in tate zen, and Shidachi is in gedan. We both push to chudan, driving into the opponent's space, right? As I step forward, he drops into gedan. Boom. Nice, chill, and relax. We begin our steps, and this is where the changes start to happen. First step is normal, bump. On the second step, Shidachi grips in that Haritsuke position, right? Which is
1/3?
Yeah, we're grabbing at basically the base of the monouchi. The grip is between the thumb and forefinger. We're holding sort of with the base. The Chinese call this the mouth of the tiger, right? And we're applying a twisting, locking pressure that counters the pressure in our hand. Tuk, tuk, aso, right? We'll talk about what to avoid later, right? But it is a tight, firm grip along the mune and shinogi-ji, right? And the shinogi itself, right? So he grips, he does this by bringing it just the left hand just descends and grips it, so it's kind of lowish. So we'll start from the chudan. First step is normal, second step grabs. If we're doing the pause, he is going to take a third step as normal, right? Which is what we will do in this. Boom. Now I'm a little bit far. There we go. Now, I'm going to make the same kiriotoshi cut, the same downward cut on his head that Uchidachi always does. He is going to step off the line and parry my sword. So he does this by bringing the edge of his sword to first the side of my sword, the shinogi-ji, and then down as he holds onto it, whoop, onto the mune to drive me down and low, right? From here, he threatens my core. As he finishes, he pulls his back foot up, boom, so that his feet are together.
Oh, together, yes.
Boop. Right? Now this is a danger spot for me. I can't cut him without him killing me. And if I just try and move, he can actually start to suppress my elbow from here. So I want to be cautious. In the fight, of course, this would be the first instance of where the fight's over. He takes me through Tsuigets into the heart and I die, right? But the kata is about extending that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step out and I'm going to clear out. Once my sword passes his leg and I've got this rearward momentum, he's going to follow into Koshimi Hanmi. Whoop, right? Threatening underneath my arm, again, to that same sort of Tsuigets position. You'll notice that his hand, though it comes forward about the length of a fist, it doesn't leave this hip position. This is important in getting that angle that we're looking for.
It's a power box.
Right, right. Boom. So he's got me pinned here, and basically I'm going to give up. But he's going to take control of this position a little bit more by driving with the front leg and then stepping through with the back into Chudan. So he presses, I respond. He moves into Chudan, I clear out to proper Ma'ai, and the kata ends. We begin Kamayo Toku, I release Tatate Zen, he drops to Geidon. I chicken step, he chicken steps, and we roll out, pressing our legs rearward.
Walking in water.
Nice and controlled. In a lot of ways, this Haritsuke is a natural evolution of two of the kata that we've done that have been sort of going to the left side only, stepping to the right but attacking to the left. And that is Sasen and Mojigamai, right? In both of those, we have elements of this drive, elements of this circular motion from Mojigamai in the beginning. But rather than just doing, say, Mojigamai on the offside, Musashi takes the opportunity to teach this additional skill, this Haritsuke waza, right? This gripping of the blade, affixing the needle, affixing the spine. The footwork on this can be kind of non-intuitive in the beginning. What you're looking at doing is, I'll do it towards the camera so it's going to be a little bit easier to see. Go to Chudan, go back to Geidon, and we begin to take our steps. Left foot, right foot, if we're making the paused version. Now, the dodge, I'm just stepping in line with my left foot. Bump, as this comes around. What I want to do is get this little bit of drop. I'm bringing my rear knee, my left knee, towards the back of my right knee. Boom. And this often involves picking up my rear heel a little bit. It's not as exaggerated as in some styles, but I still want to have my hips driving in the direction of the opponent's sword while still being able to kind of obliquely focus into their core as I open into the next step. Parry, and the foot comes up. Now I follow, right? They clear out and I want to stick as close as humanly possible to them. Coming in to Koshimi Hanmi again, right? Controlled. This work is a lot lower than you might imagine it to. In other words, people when they start are always poking to sort of the chest, neck, and face because that's what they're watching, right? Because the sword hands, right? This is really low, really tight, and controlled. From there, to finish, I want the feeling of driving the enemy, really pushing him in a straight back line. not allowing him space to deviate side to side. To do this, front foot, back foot. And I have a fairly powerful thrust here. Right? And there's this feeling of just really driving from the hara, right? The low center of balance, boom, right on through. And it's, when you get it right, it's a very strong feeling. Very strong, very direct, in much the same way a good high sasen is, where it's just boop, and it has a natural directness to it. So let's talk about some of the errors that people make when doing Haritsuke, right? We'll start from the beginning because that's easy. One of the chief errors is that when they grip the sword, right there, they take their first step, they take their second step, and they bring it tip high, right? They say to to Uchidachi, hey, I am going to block your sword. If you let Uchidachi know what you're doing ahead of time to that kind of crass degree, you're encouraging them to start thinking outside the box. You're encouraging them to go, hey, I'm going to give you this special problem. Think up a really tricky answer that I'm going to have a hard time solving. So instead, we want to be kind of quiet about it, right? Now, this is nowhere near as subtle as some of the stuff that we do. It's not particularly in a blind spot. It's not hidden by other motion. So it's out there to see. We just don't want to, we don't want to come up there and just, right? We don't want to give him this kind of like, this is going to be a fight, right? Also because that sets up our mind for that kind of distancing, as though to push away from the person. We want this feeling, like I can't push him away with this feeling because there's nothing between me and him, right? When he swings, I want to avoid this, right? I am not trying to block. Yeah, I'm not trying to block. I'm not trying to tori-uke or anything. That's not really a feature we use in Hyoho, right? What I'm trying to do is bring it and control it, right? Now that may mean that my hand and forearm play on his mune and shinogi. It depends on his distance and our relation to the cut. If he's cutting high, if he's cutting deep, if he's cutting close, or if he's cutting far, right? Which will become apparent once you start practicing. What you want to avoid additionally with this is this kind of thing, where you're using the monouchi, the striking section, the last third of your blade to block. Your goal is not this. This will end up very bad for you in almost every situation.
And you'll be nubbies.
Right? You want to support your blade. And there's even though we are striking the opponent's sword and striking it with the feeling of knocking it away from us, even though we've stepped out of the way, it is a mistake to use too much tension in the arms. A lot of people, again, will have this sort of like, you just really want to push it or drive it away. All this does is give them motion, right? I push here and he just comes right in and through, and he's in my dead space. I can't cut him without changing my relation. And if I've driven here, he's going to take me.
Yeah, when you do that and put too much power,
Mm-hmm.
it drives it up,
Right.
not out.
Down and controlled.
Yeah.
Right. It may be helpful to think of this, rather than smacking the opponent's sword away, smothering it. In one of the later katas, kazuki, right, we will actually pin the sword to our thigh armor, to our tari, boop, right, and control him in this kind of fashion. And you can do this without wearing armor and still be safe. it's just very hard, finicky, scary, frightening, all those things we don't like. However, if you're in armor, you take it, and suddenly now you're working with good-sized Tonto, and you can navigate his armor easier. So we've made the step, we've made the parry, right? The foot transition, right? So he cuts, up, wah, right? This shift in footwork, ba up, ba, is a little bit difficult for people. And the tendency is to want to rush through it. And so what they'll do is they'll take the step, and then from there, they'll just follow up and through. Now you can do that, and at full speed, that is how it is done. However, there are lessons in that pause, in that bringing the foot together, that if you don't put that in there, especially during the beginning of your training, you won't know we're there. You won't understand, because it's not immediately apparent to the eye. And rather than sort of specifically go into what they are, I want you to explore it, right? Boom. This is the same kind of thing whoop, in ukinagashi, well, in bringing the feet together, in hasso, right? Whoop, 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 whoop.
Almost all the katas so far have a break halfway through.
Yeah, and it's not just a safety pause. That's its primary function, but there's a lot more going on there that has to deal with, like I said, I'll let you guys explore it on your own and use your minds, right? From there, the next thing that people tend to really get sort of mucked up about is distance in terms of the relation of movement between the two opponents. So after he cuts, ba 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 ba, right? What a lot of people will do from the parry, right? They'll start to move, and now they'll move. So it's too late, right? You've let them. You've let their movement germinate for too long, and now you're getting prepared to be hit in the after timing, right? Because what'll happen again, ba-da-dum, he clears, wham, I start to follow now, he just shifts off the line. He does like toraburi, and just thunk, right? And he can adjust his distance, right? He can be further back, he can be further wide. He has a lot of options here, and my position is not such that I can easily respond, right? I mean, I can work close with sort of similar parries, but it's not ideal. I've let him too close into my space. One-on-one, it's not the end of the world. You can recover, of course. When you're working with more than one person, the dynamic is different. And yeah, being close to a guy means it's a little harder for his buddy to work you unless they've got good teamwork. It can still give you a bit of trouble. So what you want to do instead, from the parry, ba, 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 is whoop. You want to have the feeling that, come back, right? So I pinned, boop, 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 and he clears, right? You want to have this sense of his motion going, and you're right with it, boom, and pushing him off the last hit, to really roll him backwards, to not give him the opportunity to ability to move in the way he wants is the problem, right? That is what's going to put the steel lightsaber in places you don't like. The more you retard his motion, the more control you exhibit on the fight and its outcome. From there, the very end, the final thrust, right? So We've pinned, ba-da-da-da-da. He goes, boom, right? And I've got that. Boom, boom, boom. So he gets right into his heart. What I want to do is really give him that solid feeling that he's got nowhere to go but backwards. This transition is also how we show how to change into the long thrust position with 2 hands. Or 1, if you're attentive and savvy and you sort of understand how the footwork's playing out here in Hyoho in general, right? Again, what we're looking for is that blah, 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 right? A very straight line, very dynamic might not be the right word, but it carries the right kind of feeling. Press and control. It is, yeah. It's like when you're working with new students in unarmed work, right? You start giving them punches, letting them sort of work on getting out of the way, using their steps, using their body shifts. In the beginning, right, you don't have to do anything. You're going to hit them every single time because to their perception, your tiny little fist is the size of like a garbage can lid and there is nothing they can do to get out of the way. That is the feeling that you're trying to impart with this thrust, right? You want to, and there is no way. He doesn't have that feeling of freedom side to side. He's controlled and pinned down, right? Hold the pillow down. That's pretty much it for things that people tend to hark up with Haritsuke. You'll notice that there is not really in any of Hyoho any kind of body contortion. In other words, as he's cutting, I'm not trying to evade with my head, right? I evade with my body, but, right? Even here, I'm not leaned forward. I'm pinned, I'm controlled, he passes, ba, 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 right? And I push, push, push. So, back straight, as always. Let's go ahead and demonstrate the no pause version of this.
Oh, you have faith in me.
Yeah. So, the no pause version is exactly the same as the pause version, except the step. 2, I take hold. 3, you immediately move into that off the line parry. So, we'll take a look at it. Okay.
Ish.
We're going to try again. Take your time.
Yeah, take your time with no pauses.
Right? 1, 2, 3. Boom. He controls. I evade. Whoop. And he pushes, forcing me to retreat. Right?
I didn't do my potty knees the first time.
I know. And we step out. So, as is often the case with working with the no pause versions, it's easy for people to get overly excited, right? And to think that just because there's not this, sort of pause, that everything's going fast, 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 right? And in Hyoho, we have this idea of both contagious rhythm and breaking rhythm. In other words, if my opponent wants to move fast, right, I can work slowly and still take him if the work that I am doing and his position relative to mine are in good relation, in good harmony, right? And that I have good ma'ai. If I have bad ma'ai, no amount of speed in the world is going to help me, right? So I really want to get into the habit of, especially in training, when I'm on the responding end, moving as slowly as I can when responding to Teki's attack, Shidachi's attack, or Uchidachi's attack. Not because in the fight my goal is to go slow, right? That is not the case. In the fight I go at the speed that I feel is prudent for victory, right? Whether that's fast or slow or somewhere most likely in between. In training, right, it's not enough for me to win, right? Because if Eddie and I are here, right, my skill level's higher than Eddie, he swings at me, right, I can take him because I have more experience, right? But if all I do is this one thing that I know I will take him on, right, my rate of growth and my rate of understanding of the fight, and more importantly, and this is a hard pill, my understanding of myself, they don't grow. Instead, it's very important that I take this wonderful opportunity to challenge myself, to try and break myself down a little bit, so I can see what can I do? You know, how do I respond to stress? How slow can I go? There are lots of other reasons for this. Another one is speed perception, right? When we go fast, and we just go fast, right? We don't necessarily accurately perceive the speed at which other people are traveling. Especially not as it stands on its own, right? We understand visually that I moved faster than him or he moved faster than me, but we don't understand like necessarily where that margin bracket sits, right? So by letting things develop a little bit, I can begin to study the actual speed that he is moving as compared to reality as a baseline, rather than just compared to my motion being faster or slower than his. Why is this important, right? Simple. When somebody moves faster than you, or in a way that is faster than you're ready, in a way that surprises you, tension builds in your form, right? Tension builds in your mind, and you start to have a little bit of resistance in manipulating your body in the way you want to do it, right? By letting your opponent he likes and taking your time, seeing that you do not have to rush if you're in good relation, you start to lose that shock fear, right, of the rapid movement. And for some people, it develops a confidence, right? They begin to understand, oh, you know, even if I'm like injured and left-handed and working with something small, right, I can still overcome an enemy using our strategy if I understand how to relate to the opponent, right? Physically, environmentally, and psychologically, right? So it's a lot of talking to basically say, don't rush, go slow, take your time.
It will feel fast.
Yeah, sometimes.
It's terrifyingly fast, it seems like, when you first started.
Right. And of course, that's not, again, saying that your goal is to go slow in a fight, or that all of your training should be as slow as you can possibly manage. It's just to say going slow builds important skills, builds important understanding of who you are, how you react to things that are uncomfortable. And once you understand how you react, you can adapt, right? Or you can refine your relation. So it's pretty important. Just as important as going fast for the sake of fast in Fukuro Shinai training. Because where going slow shows you your strengths, going fast shows you the weakness of speed, right? Especially if you have
Little training.
if you've got a person who is who knows their stuff and can really whoop you, right? While taking their time. Well, I think that is about it for Haritsuke.
Don't go too fast.
Yeah, don't go too fast. Just take your time.
Your mind will go, ah! Don't listen to it.
Right. So, with the winter season approaching here in Oregon, that's our rainy season. And so our videos are going to be a little bit more sporadic, not on their sort of normal every Friday schedule. But we'll do our best, and what can you complain about? It's free, right?
Free. No ads.
No ads. There you go. So, as always, if you want to understand this, you've got to pick up a sword and go train.